Adam Schiff playing the Sergeant Schultz routine yesterday. I know nothing. He said yet again that he does not know the whistleblower. It is interesting to see this finally hit the floor of the Senate, though, this conversation.
Well, there's a conflict right now between Senator Rand Paul, who wants to name the alleged whistleblower in a question, and the Chief Justice of the United States, who won't do it. And there are reports that before this all began, John Roberts, the Chief Justice, said he would not entertain questions that name the whistleblower or that offered information that would tend to identify the whistleblower. And this conflict stems from one basic fact, which is Democrats are demanding that the Senate remove the President of the United States from office on the basis of the case the precise origins of which must remain secret. It's an astonishing position, but so far they're doing it.
Yeah, which is amazing, especially with the Chief Justice saying, "Oh, you can't talk about the whistleblower," and which stifled a lot of the questions from the Republicans. But it's interesting that with Schiff saying that he denied knowing the whistleblower, we had a piece from the Washington Post when he first said he denied knowing the whistleblower, and they gave him 4 Pinocchios on it. Because we all know that someone on his staff had a conversation with the whistleblower. Adam Schiff told us that. And we're supposed to believe that Adam Schiff never had a conversation with someone on his staff about what was said.
That's pretty far-fetched right there. But the other thing is, even if Schiff is telling the truth, someone on his staff knows who the whistleblower is. And I've yet to see a question where anyone asks Representative Schiff, well, okay, let's say you don't know who the whistleblower is. Someone on your staff does. Isn't that correct? Because clearly, as denied by Schiff earlier, but it's true, the Intelligence Committee gave the whistleblower advice on how to pursue the case.
Yeah, I mean, I have questions. I think whistleblower laws in general are important. You try and basically get information out in order to make sure the government is doing its job, and you don't want people to face reprisals for acknowledging like actual law breaking. But this is a weird case all the way around, including he's the president of the United States. It was filed with the intelligence community, which seems like kind of a weird thing to do because he's outside of the intelligence community ultimately, and the president doesn't get a right to face his accuser. The accuser, you can't even assess the person's motives. You're not allowed to do that in this case. And we are and even the Supreme Court, the fact that John Roberts is sticking his nose into this is annoying. Like, it's like you would think that he would stay out of it and just like let the senators ask whatever questions they like.
Yeah, and by the way, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community was interviewed by the House Intelligence Committee as part of the impeachment inquiry, and that is the only transcript they have not released. I have reported that in that deposition, the Inspector General said that the whistleblower had some sort of professional relationship with one of the 2020 Democratic presidential candidates. Now, there's been a lot of subsequent reporting that that's Joe Biden. We don't know for a fact about this, but we really should see that transcript. And, you point something out that's really also interesting. Just the very origins of the case is that the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community is authorized to hear information from anybody, but only about activities that are within the purview of the intelligence community. And if you remember, the Justice Department originally said, this is crazy. That this is, the Inspector General of the intelligence community cannot take a case about the President of the United States who was not under the purview of the intelligence community. He's actually in charge of the whole executive branch. So the case is kind of crazy from the beginning, and I think that's one of the reasons Democrats have literally thrown their bodies in front of any effort to identify the whistleblower.
There's another question that needs to be asked about the whistleblower. And from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he doesn't meet the criteria of an actual whistleblower because he does not have firsthand information. That's the first thing. But the second thing means that somebody leaked classified information to this person. We need to get to the bottom of this, and are we going to find out who broke the law?
Yeah, both of those are actually true, and you would think that if you were proposing to remove the President of the United States, that your case was so important and so strong, you would not be hiding how it got started, and yet that's the situation we're in right now.
Yes,
and it has not changed throughout. I thought, well, is there any way the House of Representatives could actually vote to impeach the president and on the basis of this case that just must remain secret? And the answer was, yeah, they did. And now we've had a Senate trial, what appears to be nearing the end, and it's still not known. Now, in the future, the whistleblower may out himself. Maybe he gets a big book contract. Maybe he becomes a hero of the resistance or something like that. And then everybody will look kind of funny for protecting his identity so much. But it really doesn't matter at this point. This is a case of such importance.
Yes.
That people need to know how it began.
Yes. Okay. So speaking of what we need to know, since Sunday, there's been a fire on the stove, which is John Bolton had come out has this manuscript. It was reported on by the New York Times, and it alleges that there was indeed a quid pro quo, that the president was withholding aid in order to achieve political investigations in Ukraine. Now, that allegation was made, but over the course of the last few days, the White House lawyers have had a chance to go back at it and make their case to the public about why it doesn't matter what John Bolton said in that book. Do you feel like they did successfully get a lid on that fire?
They seem to have. Remember, there was that we learned yesterday, actually, kind of a very interesting chronology, which is on December 30th, Bolton's lawyer sends a manuscript of the book to the National Security Council. About the 15th of January, the impeachment articles go from the House to the Senate. On January 22nd, Bolton's lawyer talks with the NSC because they want a really quick clearance of the book.
Right.
And then on the 23rd, January 23rd, the NSC writes to Bolton's lawyer and says, sorry, this contains significant amount of classified information. It's got to be taken out. We'll work with you about that, but that's the fact. And that's the 23rd. And on the 26th, the leak from Bolton's book appears in the New York Times, which kind of upends the case for a little bit, the impeachment trial for a little bit. And but I think what happened is Republicans have begun to think, well, assume that everything in the New York Times characterization of Bolton's book, and remember, no one has quoted a single word from the book. If one believes the New York Times characterization is both accurate and complete, does it matter in my vote on this case? And I think a lot of Republicans have decided that it does not.
Yeah, and again, another leak, and no one will be punished for it. It's out of control and out of hand, and it's just crazy. Byron York, thank you so much. Vince and I are both looking at things that we want to ask you, so we'll have to have you back.